Captain Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars through the main screen. The human exploration ship had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks now. They were far from Earth and even farther from any friendly ports. Lisa liked it this way. Out here in the dark between star systems, she could think clearly about their mission. The New Horizon was not a big ship. It carried only 50 crew members and was built for long-range exploration. Lisa had been captain for 5 years and knew every sound the ship made. Today, something felt different. The crew seemed nervous, and she could not figure out why. Commander Amy Watson walked over to Lisa holding a data pad. Amy was the first officer and had been Lisa's friend since their academy days. She was good at her job and never worried about small things. But today, Amy looked troubled. "Captain, we are getting something strange on our long-range sensors," Amy said quietly. "It looks like a distress signal, but it is coming from the Kepler 442 system." Lisa frowned. The Kepler 442 system was supposed to be empty. The Galactic Council had marked it as a dead zone 6 months ago. No ships were allowed to go there and no rescue missions were permitted. The Council said it was too dangerous. "Are you sure it is a distress signal?" Lisa asked. Amy nodded and handed her the data pad. "The signal is weak, but it is definitely a call for help. Someone is asking for immediate assistance. They say they have over 200 people on board and their ship is failing." Lisa read the message on the screen. The words made her feel cold inside. The signal was coming from an elven diplomatic vessel. The sender identified herself as Ambassador Zarathel of the High Elven Council. She was asking any ship in range to please help them. The message explained that their ship had been carrying refugees from 3 different worlds. All 3 worlds had been hit by something called the Grey Death. It was some kind of plague that killed everyone who got sick. The Galactic Council had decided to quarantine the entire sector. They put up barriers around all the affected systems and told everyone inside that they were on their own. Zarathel said in her message that the elven ship had been trying to carry survivors to safety when their engines failed. Now they were drifting in space with no power and running out of air. She said there were families on board, including many children. They would all die soon if no one came to help them. Lisa felt her hands shake as she read the message again. 200 people were going to die, and the Galactic Council had decided not to save them. The Council was afraid the plague would spread, so they were letting entire populations die to protect the rest of the galaxy. "Captain, what are your orders?" Amy asked softly. Lisa looked around the bridge. Her crew was watching her and waiting for her decision. She knew what the smart choice was. The Galactic Council had made it clear that any ship entering the quarantine zone would be considered infected. They would never be allowed to return to civilized space. The crew of the New Horizon would become outlaws just for trying to help. Dr. Megan Foster entered the bridge carrying her medical scanner. Megan was the chief medical officer and had been studying the reports about the Grey Death for months. She was young but very smart and cared deeply about saving lives. "Captain, I heard about the distress signal," Megan said. "I have been reading everything I can find about this plague. The Galactic Council might be wrong about how dangerous it really is." Lisa turned to face her. "What do you mean, Doctor?" Megan showed her the medical scanner readings. "The symptoms they describe do not match any natural disease I know about. The way it spreads and kills people is very strange. I think there might be more to this than just a plague." Amy stepped closer. "Captain, even if the doctor is right, we would still be taking a huge risk. If we enter that system, the Council will never let us leave. We would be stuck there forever." Lisa closed her eyes and thought about her parents back on Earth. They had taught her that good people help others when they can. Her father had been a rescue worker who saved people from burning buildings. Her mother had been a teacher who never gave up on difficult students. They had both told her that the right choice was usually the hard choice. When Lisa opened her eyes, she looked at each member of her crew. These were good people who had signed up to explore the galaxy and make contact with new civilizations. They had not signed up to become heroes, but sometimes life did not give you a choice. "Set course for the Kepler 442 system," Lisa said in a clear voice. "Maximum speed." Amy stared at her. "Captain, are you sure about this? Once we cross into that quarantine zone, we cannot come back. The council will mark us as infected and hunt us down. Lisa nodded. I know the risks, Amy, but there are 200 people out there who are going to die if we do not help them. That includes children who have done nothing wrong except be born in the wrong place at the wrong time. The bridge crew began working to change their course. Lisa could see that some of them were scared, but none of them questioned her order. They trusted her judgment, even when it meant putting their own lives in danger. Dr. Foster walked over to Lisa. Captain, I want to start preparing the medical bay. If these people really are sick, we will need to be ready to help them. I also want to study this plague myself. Something about it does not feel right. Lisa put her hand on Megan's shoulder. Do whatever you think is best, Doctor. We are going to save as many people as we can. As the New Horizon turned toward the quarantine zone, Lisa felt the weight of command on her shoulders. She was about to make her crew into outlaws, and there was no going back. But she also knew that this was why humans had joined the galactic community in the first place. They were supposed to make things better, not just watch while people died. The stars ahead looked the same as always, but Lisa knew they were flying toward their destiny. In a few hours, they would either be heroes or they would be dead. Either way, they would not abandon people who needed their help, because that was not what humans did. The New Horizon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system and immediately detected 3 ships drifting in the darkness. Captain Lisa Morgan studied the sensor readings while Commander Amy Watson worked the communication controls, trying to make contact with the survivors. The first ship was clearly elven in design, with its long, graceful curves and silver hull. It was barely holding together with multiple hull breaches and no visible engine activity. The second ship looked like it was made of crystal and metal fused together in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. The third ship was smaller and built for war, with thick armor and weapon mounts that were now cold and silent. I am getting responses from all 3 vessels, Amy reported. The elven ship has Ambassador Zarathel on board with 147 refugees. The crystal ship has an engineer named Kriana with 38 survivors. The warrior ship has someone called Veltara with 29 people, including several young ones. Lisa nodded as she processed this information. 3 different alien species were working together despite the fact that most of them had been enemies for centuries. The plague had forced them to cooperate in ways that diplomacy never could. Dr. Megan Foster entered the bridge carrying her medical equipment. Captain, I recommend we dock with the elven ship first, since they sent the original distress call. I want to see these plague victims for myself and start treating them immediately. The docking process took longer than usual because the elven ship had lost most of its guidance systems. Lisa had to use manual controls to bring the New Horizon alongside the damaged vessel. When the airlocks finally connected, Amy led a small team across to make first contact. Ambassador Zarathel was waiting for them in the elven ship's main corridor. She was tall and elegant, with pointed ears and silver hair that seemed to glow in the dim emergency lighting. Her clothes had once been fine diplomatic robes, but now they were torn and stained. Despite everything she had been through, she still carried herself with the pride of her ancient race. I am Ambassador Zarathel of the High Elven Council, she said in perfect English. I must admit I'm surprised to see humans here. Your species is not known for taking such risks to help strangers. Amy smiled at her. Captain Morgan believes that good people help each other when they can. That is just who we are. Zarathel looked confused by this simple answer. Elven society was built on complex treaties and careful negotiations that could take decades to complete. The idea that humans would risk everything for people they had never met was completely foreign to her way of thinking. Dr. Foster immediately went to work examining the sick refugees. Most of them were weak and had strange gray marks spreading across their skin. Some were unconscious, while others could barely speak. Megan took blood samples and ran quick tests using her portable equipment. This is very strange, Megan told Lisa over the communication link. These people are definitely sick, but this does not look like any plague I have ever seen. The gray marks appear to be some kind of nanotechnology that is attacking their cellular structure. While the medical team worked, Lisa established contact with the other 2 ships. Kriana spoke in a voice that sounded like musical chimes mixed with the hum of computers. Her people were crystalline beings who thought in pure logic and mathematical equations. She was fascinated by the human approach to problem-solving. Your species makes decisions based on emotional responses rather than calculated probabilities, Kriana observed. This should result in poor outcomes, yet here you are risking everything to help us. I do not understand how this works. Lisa tried to explain human nature to the crystal being. We do not always make the smartest choice, but we try to make the right choice. Sometimes those are different things. Veltara was much more direct in her communication. Her people were feline humanoids with a warrior culture that respected strength above all else. She was suspicious of human motives and kept asking what Lisa wanted in return for helping them. Nothing, Lisa kept telling her. We just want to get you all to safety. This answer made Veltara even more suspicious. In her culture, no one helped others without expecting something valuable in return. She was convinced that the humans were planning some kind of trick or trap. As the hours passed, the 3 alien women began to see that the humans were serious about helping them. Captain Morgan shared the New Horizons' limited food supplies without being asked. Commander Watson organized repair teams to fix critical systems on all 3 ships. Dr. Foster worked without rest to treat the sick and find a cure for their condition. Zarathel watched the human crew with growing amazement. Her people had always been taught that humans were primitive barbarians who solved everything with violence, but these humans were gentle with the sick children and patient with the frightened adults. They asked for nothing and gave everything they could. Kriana began analyzing human behavior patterns and found them completely illogical by her standards. Humans would share their own food even when it meant they would go hungry. They would risk their lives to save strangers without calculating the odds of success. Yet somehow this approach seemed to work better than pure logic. Veltara slowly began to respect the human warriors. She watched Commander Watson organize the defense of all 4 ships and noticed that Amy put the safety of the alien refugees ahead of protecting her own crew. This kind of selfless honor was something Veltara could understand even if she could not explain it. Dr. Foster made several important discoveries during her medical examinations. The Gray Death was definitely artificial and designed to target specific genetic markers. Someone had created this weapon to kill certain populations while leaving others untouched. It was not a natural plague at all, but a tool of genocide. Captain, I think someone in the Galactic Council knows exactly what this thing is, Megan reported. The way they quarantined these systems so quickly suggests they were prepared for this to happen. Lisa felt anger building in her chest. The Council had not just abandoned these people, they had actively decided to let them die. Worse than that, they might have been involved in creating the weapon that was killing them. While the medical work continued, Amy detected ships approaching their position. The Galactic Council had sent an enforcement fleet to make sure no one escaped from the quarantine zone. 3 heavy cruisers were moving toward them at maximum speed. Captain, we have incoming Council ships, Amy reported. They are demanding that we surrender immediately and prepare to be destroyed. Lisa looked at the 3 alien women who had joined them on the bridge of the New Horizon. Zarathel stood straight despite her fear. Kriana was calculating probabilities and finding their chances of survival very low. Veltara was checking her weapons and preparing for a fight she knew they could not win. We are not surrendering, Lisa announced. And we are not abandoning anyone. All ships prepare to move together. We are getting everyone out of here alive. The 4 ships began moving as a group toward the edge of the system. It would be a race to reach hyperspace before the Council fleet could destroy them. Lisa knew they were outgunned and outnumbered, but she also knew they were fighting for something more important than their own lives. As the enemy ships closed in, Zarathel realized something that changed her understanding of the universe. These humans were not helping her people because they expected a reward or because they had been ordered to do so. They were risking everything simply because it was the right thing to do. For the first time in her long life, she began to understand what real courage looked like. The 4 ships raced through space while the Galactic Council enforcement fleet closed in behind them. Captain Lisa Morgan coordinated their escape from the bridge of the New Horizon, while Ambassador Zarathel worked to decode Council communications they had intercepted. The elven diplomat was using her years of political training to understand what the Council was really planning. Captain, I am seeing something very disturbing in these messages, Zarathel reported. The Council commanders are not just trying to stop us from escaping. They are actively trying to destroy all evidence of what happened here. Commander Amy Watson looked up from her tactical display. What kind of evidence? Zarathel pointed to the data she had translated. Medical records, genetic samples, and witness testimony about the Grey Death. They want to make sure no one ever learns the truth about this plague. Dr. Megan Foster had been working in the medical bay for hours, trying to understand how the artificial plague worked. She rushed to the bridge carrying her analysis pad with an expression of shock and anger on her face. Captain, I know who created this weapon, Megan announced. The nanotechnology has signature patterns that match research done by the Council's own Biological Warfare Division. They did not just know about the Grey Death, they made it. Lisa felt her hands clench into fists. The Galactic Council had created a weapon designed to kill millions of innocent people, and then abandoned entire star systems to cover up their crime. Now they were trying to murder anyone who might expose what they had done. Kriana's voice came over the communication system from her crystal ship. Captain Morgan, I have been analyzing the Council's tactical patterns. Their ships are not trying to capture us. They are positioning to destroy us completely. No survivors will be left to tell what happened here. Veltara joined the conversation from her warrior vessel. My people have faced genocide before. This is what it looks like when someone tries to erase all evidence of their crimes. They will kill us all and claim we never existed. Lisa made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. All ships come to full stop. We are not running anymore. Amy stared at her captain. Lisa, we cannot fight 3 Council cruisers. They will destroy us in minutes. Lisa shook her head. We are not going to fight them, Amy. We are going to expose them. Dr. Foster, how long do you need to synthesize a cure for the Grey Death? Megan looked at her analysis. With Kriana's help, I might be able to create enough medicine for everyone in 6 hours. But, Captain, we do not have 6 hours. Lisa smiled grimly. We are going to make the time. Zarathel, I need you to use your diplomatic codes to access the Council's central communication network. Can you do that? The Elven ambassador nodded slowly. Yes, but it would be considered an act of war against the Council. I would be branded a traitor to my own people. Your people are dying from a weapon the Council created, Lisa pointed out. I think that makes them the traitors, not you. While Zarathel worked to break into the Council's networks, Kriana began helping Dr. Foster develop a cure for the artificial plague. The crystal being's logical mind combined perfectly with human creativity and stubbornness. Where Kriana would calculate the most efficient solution, Megan would suggest impossible ideas that somehow worked. This should not be possible according to the laws of physics, Kriana observed, as they mixed human nanobots with crystalline technology. Humans do impossible things all the time, Megan replied. We just pretend we know what we are doing and hope for the best. Veltara coordinated the defense of their small fleet using tactics that confused the Council commanders. Instead of trying to outrun or outgun the enemy ships, she positioned the 4 vessels to protect each other. Her warrior instincts told her to attack, but she was learning to think like a human, which meant protecting others came first. The Council fleet commander sent a final demand for surrender. He promised that if they gave up now, their deaths would be quick and painless. If they continued to resist, the Council would make them suffer before they died. Lisa opened a channel to all 4 ships. Everyone listen to me. We have a choice to make right now. We can surrender and let the Council cover up their crimes, or we can fight back and make sure the galaxy learns the truth. If we succeed, millions of innocent people will be saved. If we fail, at least we will die knowing we tried to do the right thing. The response from the 3 alien ships was immediate and unanimous. They would fight alongside the humans no matter what happened. Zarathel had learned that sometimes diplomacy was not enough. Kriana had discovered that logical calculations meant nothing without moral courage. Veltara had found warriors worth following into battle. As the Council ships began their attack, Zarathel managed to break into the central communication network. Captain, I am in, but they will trace this intrusion in minutes. We need to transmit everything now. Dr. Foster and Kriana finished synthesizing the cure just as enemy weapons fire began hitting their shields. The medicine is ready. Megan announced. "But we need to get this information to every inhabited system in the galaxy." Lisa coordinated the most important broadcast in galactic history. While their ships took damage from Council weapons, they transmitted proof that the Grey Death was an artificial weapon created by the Council itself. They sent the cure formula to every medical facility in known space. Most importantly, they sent Zarathel's diplomatic testimony exposing the Council's decision to commit genocide rather than admit their mistake. The battle was brutal and one-sided. The New Horizons' shields failed, and hull breaches appeared throughout the ship. The elven vessel lost life support on 3 decks. Kriana's crystal ship had its main computer damaged by enemy fire. Veltara's warrior ship was closest to the enemy and took the worst damage as she tried to protect the others. Commander Watson was hit by debris when a Council missile exploded near the bridge. Amy was knocked unconscious and bleeding badly, but she had stayed at her post until the transmission was complete. Dr. Foster rushed to treat Amy's injuries while Lisa tried to keep their damaged ship together. Just when it seemed like they would all be destroyed, something unexpected happened. The Council fleet suddenly stopped firing and began moving away from them. Ships from a dozen different species appeared on long-range sensors, racing toward their position. Zarathel looked up from her communication console with tears in her eyes. "Captain, the transmission worked. Every major news network in the galaxy is broadcasting our evidence. Governments across known space are demanding answers from the Council. Kriana reported that medical facilities on hundreds of worlds were already producing the cure and sending it to affected systems. The logical result of our actions has exceeded all probability calculations. We have achieved the impossible." Veltara's warrior spirit was pleased with their victory, but she was more impressed by how they had won it. "We defeated our enemies not with superior weapons, but with truth and courage. This is a new kind of warfare." As rescue ships arrived from across the galaxy, Lisa realized that humanity had changed the rules of galactic civilization. They had shown that sometimes the right choice was worth any risk. They had proven that ordinary people could defeat powerful institutions when they refused to be silent about injustice. The 3 alien women who had started this journey as desperate refugees were now partners in creating a new kind of galactic community. Zarathel would use her diplomatic skills to build alliances based on human values. Kriana would combine logic with compassion to solve problems that had seemed impossible. Veltara would teach warriors from every species that protecting others was the highest form of strength. But their victory was not complete yet. The Council would not give up easily, and there were still millions of people who needed to be saved. The real work was just beginning. The rescue fleet that arrived at Kepler 442 was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Ships from 30 different species had dropped everything to help the survivors and deliver the cure to infected worlds. Captain Lisa Morgan watched through the main screen as vessels of every shape and size worked together to save lives instead of pursuing their own interests. Ambassador Zarathel stood beside Lisa on the bridge of the damaged New Horizon. The elven diplomat had spent the last 3 days coordinating with governments across known space. Her own people had been horrified to learn that the Council had created the Grey Death and were demanding justice for the victims. "Captain, I have received formal requests from 18 different species asking to join a new alliance," Zarathel reported. "They want to create a galactic community based on human principles of mutual aid and protection." Commander Amy Watson was back on duty, despite her injuries from the Council attack. She had refused to stay in the medical bay while there was still work to be done. Amy was coordinating supply runs to infected worlds and helping organize the largest humanitarian mission in galactic history. "The cure is working better than we hoped," Amy announced. "Dr. Foster's formula has saved over 3 million lives in just 4 days. Medical teams are reporting complete recovery in most patients." Dr. Megan Foster entered the bridge, looking exhausted but satisfied. She had been working around the clock to help coordinate medical relief efforts across dozens of star systems. The young doctor had become famous throughout the galaxy as the human who had solved the mystery of the Grey Death. "Captain, we have a problem," Megan said seriously. "The Galactic Council is not admitting defeat. They are claiming that our evidence was faked and that we are the real terrorists. Some Council member species are actually preparing to attack the relief fleet." Lisa felt her anger rising again. Even when faced with overwhelming evidence of their crimes, the Council was trying to maintain power by attacking the people who had exposed them. They seemed willing to start a galactic war rather than take responsibility for their actions. Kriana's musical voice came over the communication system from her crystal ship. Captain Morgan, I have been monitoring Council military communications. They are mobilizing battle fleets from 12 different systems. The logical conclusion is that they intend to destroy all evidence of their involvement in creating the biological weapon. Veltara joined the conversation from her warrior vessel. My clan has been contacted by Council agents offering us wealth and territory if we switch sides and help them capture the human ship. They believe that eliminating Captain Morgan will end this rebellion. Lisa looked around the bridge at her crew and their alien allies. These people had risked everything to do what was right, and now they were being hunted by the most powerful organization in the galaxy. But instead of being afraid, they seemed more determined than ever to continue their mission. All ships prepare. For hyperspace jump, Lisa announced. We are taking this fight directly to the Council. Amy stared at her captain. Lisa, the Council headquarters at Galactic Station Prime is the most heavily defended location in known space. It would be suicide to attack it directly. Lisa shook her head. We are not going to attack anything, Amy. We are going to do something much more dangerous. We are going to tell the truth in front of the entire Galactic Senate. The plan Lisa proposed was so bold that it seemed insane. They would use Zarathel's diplomatic immunity to get past the outer defenses of Galactic Station Prime. Then they would broadcast live testimony about the Grey Death directly to the Senate chambers while the Council was in session. Billions of beings across the galaxy would hear the evidence in real time before the Council could suppress it. Zarathel was quiet for a long time as she considered what Lisa was asking. Captain, if I do this, my people will be forced to disown me officially. I will never be able to return home or see my family again. I know what I am asking of you, Lisa replied gently. But if we do not stop the Council now, they will create other weapons and kill more innocent people. Sometimes the right choice costs us everything we care about. Kriana had been calculating the probability of success for their mission, the Eye. Logical analysis suggests we have less than a 12% chance of reaching the Senate chambers alive. However, human behavior patterns indicate that low probability does not determine the value of an action. Veltara was checking her weapons and preparing her warriors for what might be their final battle. My clan has decided to follow the human path regardless of the cost. We will protect this ship and its crew with our lives because that is what honor demands. The combined fleet began its journey toward Galactic Station Prime. Along the way, they were joined by more ships as word of their mission spread across the galaxy. Many species that had never spoken to each other before were now working together to support the human-led alliance. During the trip, Dr. Foster made a disturbing discovery while analyzing the Grey Death weapon. Captain, this nanotechnology was designed to be modified easily. The Council could create new versions that target any genetic markers they choose. They have the ability to wipe out entire species whenever they want. This revelation made their mission even more urgent. The Council was not just guilty of past crimes, they were planning future genocides. If they were allowed to keep power, they would eventually use their biological weapons against any species that opposed them. As they approached Galactic Station Prime, the Council fleet moved to intercept them. Hundreds of warships surrounded the massive space station, ready to destroy anyone who tried to reach it. The Council had decided that starting a galactic war was preferable to admitting their guilt. Zarathel used her diplomatic codes to open a communication channel with Station Security. This is Ambassador Zarathel of the High Elven Council requesting permission to address the Senate on a matter of urgent galactic importance. The station commander was confused by the request. Diplomatic protocols required that he allow the BA ambassador to speak, but his orders were to prevent anyone from reaching the Senate chambers. While he tried to decide what to do, Lisa took advantage of the delay. All ships attack formation, Lisa ordered. Protect the diplomatic vessel at all costs. What followed was the largest space battle in recorded galactic history. Ships from dozens of species fought desperately to create a path for Zarathel to reach the station. The Council fleet had superior numbers and weapons, but the Alliance fleet was fighting for something more important than victory. Commander Watson coordinated the battle from her position despite her injuries. She watched ships from former enemy species protecting each other and working together with a unity that had never existed before. Humans had taught them that some things were worth dying for. During the battle, Veltara's ship took heavy damage while defending a group of medical vessels. Her warrior pride would normally have demanded that she retreat to save her own people, but she had learned from humans that protecting others was more important than personal survival. Kriana's crystal ship used its advanced technology to shield the New Horizon from enemy fire. Her logical mind had calculated that the mission's success was more valuable than her own existence. She had learned that sometimes the most logical choice was to sacrifice logic itself. The elven diplomatic vessel finally reached the docking bay of Galactic Station Prime just as its shields failed completely. Zarathel rushed through corridors filled with smoke and debris, while station security tried to stop her. She reached the Senate chambers just as the Council was voting to declare martial law across the galaxy. Standing before representatives of hundreds of species, Zarathel began to speak. Her words were broadcast live to every inhabited world as she presented evidence of the Council's crimes. She showed medical data proving that the Grey Death was an artificial weapon. She played recordings of Council members discussing which populations should be eliminated. Most importantly, she testified about the courage of the humans who had risked everything to save people they had never met. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Representatives began demanding the arrest of council members while crowds gathered on planets across the galaxy. The carefully maintained order of galactic civilization was crumbling as the truth spread faster than the council could suppress it. But their victory came at a terrible cost. The New Horizon had been severely damaged in the battle, and many crew members were injured. Commander Watson had been hit again while trying to protect alien civilians and was now unconscious in the medical bay. The ship that had started this rebellion was barely holding together. As Lisa watched the chaos in the Senate chambers, she realized that they had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. The Council's power was broken, and a new galactic order was being born, but the price of that success would haunt her for the rest of her life. 6 months after the battle at Galactic Station Prime, the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. Captain Lisa Morgan stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt New Horizon, watching construction work on the new Terra Alliance headquarters. Ships from over 40 different species moved through space around them, working together on the largest cooperative project in galactic history. The Galactic Council had collapsed within weeks of Zarathel's testimony. Most of the member species had withdrawn their support and demanded new leadership. The few Council loyalists who remained had been arrested and put on trial for war crimes. The evidence of their involvement in creating the Grey Death was overwhelming and undeniable. Ambassador Zarathel entered the observation deck carrying datapads filled with diplomatic reports. The elven woman had been officially exiled from her home world for betraying the Council, but she had found a new purpose working with the Terra Alliance. She was now the chief diplomatic coordinator for an organization that included species who had been enemies for thousands of years. "Captain, I have the final membership reports," Zarathel announced with satisfaction. 43 species have now formally joined the Alliance, and 12 more have requested observer status. We have become the largest interstellar organization in recorded history. Lisa smiled as she looked at the data. Each new member species brought unique skills and perspectives that made the Alliance stronger. The elves contributed their diplomatic expertise and cultural knowledge. The crystal beings shared their advanced technology and logical problem-solving methods. The feline warriors provided security and taught other species about honor and courage. Commander Amy Watson joined them carrying her own set of reports. Amy had recovered from her injuries, but she would always carry scars from the battle that had changed everything. She was now the Alliance's Director of Operations and spent her time coordinating humanitarian missions across the galaxy. "The medical relief efforts are exceeding all our expectations," Amy reported. "Dr. Foster's cure has now saved over 50 million lives, and we have eliminated the Grey Death from every known infected system. More importantly, we have established medical research stations that will prevent anything like this from happening again." Dr. Megan Foster had become the most famous medical researcher in the galaxy. Her work on the Grey Death had led to breakthroughs in treating dozens of other diseases. She now directed a network of medical facilities staffed by the best doctors and scientists from every Alliance member species. The success of the Terra Alliance was based on principles that seemed simple but had proven revolutionary in practice. Help those in need regardless of their species or political status. Protect the innocent, even when it costs more than you can afford. Share knowledge and resources freely instead of hoarding them for advantage. Most importantly, never abandon people just because saving them is difficult or dangerous. Kriana's crystalline ship approached the headquarters station and requested permission to dock. The crystal being had spent the last month exploring systems beyond the galactic rim, searching for other refugees who might need help. Her logical mind had been changed by working with humans, and she now included compassion in all her calculations. When Kriana arrived on the observation deck, she carried news that excited everyone present. Captain Morgan, I have discovered 7 more star systems where Council weapons were used against civilian populations. The survivors have been hiding in asteroid fields and dead moons waiting for rescue that never came. Lisa felt the familiar stirring of purpose that had driven her to enter the quarantine zone months ago. How many people are we talking about, Kriana? Approximately 800,000 beings from at least 6 different species, the crystal being replied. They have been surviving on emergency supplies and hope for over a year. They will not last much longer without assistance. Veltara's voice came over the communication system from her patrol ship. Captain Morgan, my warriors have been monitoring Council Loyalist transmissions. They are planning to eliminate these survivor groups before the Alliance can find them. We must move quickly if we want to save these people. Lisa looked around at her friends and allies. Zarathel had given up her home and family to fight for justice. Amy had risked her life repeatedly to protect people she had never met. Megan had dedicated her career to healing others, regardless of their species. Kriana had learned that logic, without compassion, was meaningless. Veltara had discovered that true strength came from protecting the weak. All Alliance ships prepare for immediate departure, Lisa announced. We have people to save. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, over 200 ships from 30 different species had volunteered for the rescue mission. The Terra Alliance fleet that assembled was larger than many national navies, but it was not going to conquer territory or claim resources. They were going to do what humans did best, which was help people who needed help. As the fleet prepared to leave, Zarathel approached Lisa with a formal document. Captain, the Alliance Council has voted unanimously to offer you the position of Supreme Commander. You would have authority over all Alliance military and civilian operations. Lisa read the document carefully, then handed it back to Zarathel. I appreciate the honor, but I am not interested in commanding anyone. I just want to keep doing what we have been doing, which is helping people. But someone needs to coordinate our efforts, Zarathel pointed out. The Alliance is becoming too large for informal leadership. Lisa thought about this problem for a moment, then smiled. The Alliance does not need a supreme commander. It needs a council where every member species has an equal voice. Decisions should be made by consensus, not by any single person or group. This suggestion reflected the human approach to leadership that had made the Alliance possible. Instead of concentrating power in the hands of a few individuals, humans preferred to share authority and responsibility among as many people as possible. It was less efficient than traditional command structures, but it was also more fair and more likely to produce good decisions. The rescue fleet jumped to hyperspace and began the journey to the hidden survivor colonies. Along the way, they were joined by more ships as word of the mission spread across Alliance territory. Medical vessels carried supplies and equipment for treating injured refugees. Engineering ships brought materials for repairing damaged habitats. Diplomatic vessels carried translators and cultural experts who could help integrate survivors from unfamiliar species. When they reached the first survivor colony, Lisa was amazed by what they found. The refugees had created a functioning society in the ruins of a destroyed space station. Different species were working together, sharing resources and taking care of each other's children. They had learned the same lessons that the Alliance was teaching the rest of the galaxy. The rescue operation took 3 weeks and saved every survivor they could find. But more importantly, it established a pattern that would define the Terra Alliance for generations to come. Whenever people were in danger, Alliance ships would appear to help them. Whenever a species faced extinction, Alliance scientists would work to save them. Whenever war threatened civilian populations, Alliance diplomats would negotiate peace. Years later, historians would mark the moment when Captain Lisa Morgan received that first distress call as the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization. The old system, based on competition and fear, had been replaced by cooperation and hope. The change had started with a single human ship that refused to abandon people in need. Lisa often thought about that decision during quiet moments on the bridge of the New Horizon. She had not set out to change the galaxy, she had simply tried to do what was right. But sometimes doing the right thing was exactly what the universe needed most. As she watched Alliance ships departing on rescue missions to distant systems, Lisa knew that humanity had given the galaxy something precious. They had shown that ordinary people could achieve extraordinary things when they cared more about helping others than protecting themselves. They had proven that the best way to build a better future was to start by being better people. The stars ahead looked the same as always, but now they held the promise of hope instead of fear. Somewhere out there, people were waiting for rescue, and the Alliance would find them because that was what humans did and what they had taught the galaxy to become.